I'm Claire. I am the founder of Ladies Get Paid. It's a book. I guess, there we go, with the Zoom background. It's a book. We are an educational platform and a global community that helps women advance professionally, financially. I'm kind of obsessed with power and helping women get power in all the ways that they define it. And come join ladiesgetpaid.com. We've got over 75,000 women in our Slack group. More than 2 million messages have been exchanged since 2016. That's a lot. So basically, come to us if you want to crowdsource career and money ideas and ways that you want to move forward. And we also have webinars every week. We want to see you there. All right. Let's give an overview. Again, 30 minutes. I usually do this in 60, so I might talk a little bit quickly, but you're getting the recording. Well, the first question is, well, what do I even charge? What do I charge? And no, we're not going to just look up Indeed and pay scale. That's where you start, but that's not where you end. What I'm going to challenge you to do is actually ask other people how much they make, which is scary. Okay, it's scary. I'm going to talk to you about how to do it, because there's a way to do it. It's not just the fact that you're doing it. So how to talk about money, what to charge. We're also going to find a framework, because you have to have a couple of, you have to have a comeback ask is what I say. Because a negotiation isn't, here's the rate, here's what I want, goodbye. Okay, and if it is, it's a little abrupt, maybe you don't want to work there. This is a conversation, a back and forth, a way to find a creative solution, which means you have to have some backup numbers that you'd be okay with taking in case you can't get the top number. But you're not going to get this money just because you asked for it. You're not going to get this money just because you said you deserve it. Even though I know you deserve it, you are going to get this money because you have made an effective and compelling case about why you are top performer and how that means you should get top dollar. Really focusing on your impact. Let's not assume that your work will speak for itself. You have to speak for your work. It's also not just about the fact that you did something. It's really demonstrating how what you did made the company money. That is easier for some people than others, depending on your role. So let me walk you through that in just a bit. And then what you're actually all here probably is, Claire, what do I say? What do I actually say when I'm in this situation? And we're going to do that for a new job that you might be negotiating for. And if you're at a current job and you're asking for a raise. Let me start this in a depressing way. Okay, wage gap, pandemic. This is so much bigger than you. This is why I started Ladies Get Paid to begin with. I'm not going to reiterate all the bad news because you probably already know it. Point being, we are not at gender equity when it comes to pay, nor do we have it when it comes to leadership. Question is, what can you as an individual possibly do, right, to combat something so systemic? You can ask for a raise. You can make sure that you are advocating for yourself so that you close your own gaps, right? Whether it's wage, whether it's leadership. To change the system, we have to actually go and change the laws, but at least start with yourself. Asking for money is not a favor, not a favor. I want to get out of this mindset of we're so grateful for everything that we're given. I think that's because women are really socialized to accommodate others. And so we're afraid that if we assert ourselves, we ask for what we want, that we're somehow now jeopardizing the relationship. They expect you to negotiate. That is part of the process of having a job. Also, it's not so much, I think, what you say as it is how you say it. Quick thing here. I posted this on my Instagram earlier today if you saw it. It's not a favor. It's actually what you're asking for is an investment. You are an LLC. And for those of you who are actually LLCs, then go with me on this. I am the LLC of me. I am a company pitching my investors, right? I'm looking for funding. I'm telling them that they can have faith in what I do because I have a good track record. I've got testimonials, right? Great client feedback. And I have ideas for the future, and I'm getting them to buy into it, literally. The reason an investor might give me money is not because it's a favor. It's not charity. It's because they believe they will have a return on their investment. I will make them money. If you work for a company, you make them money. You just really need to know how. So we'll get to that in just a minute. Where to look, what to charge. Like I said, you can start online. I want you to really talk to real people. So professional groups like this, like Ladies Get Paid, if you went to college, LinkedIn groups, go to the organizer. Go to the person who is at the top of the community because they know a lot of folks. And you ask them, everybody is trying to figure out what to charge at some point. Is there a way that you can facilitate this conversation? Go and identify people who are at similar companies to you, right? The size of the company, the industry, the location, because all of that matters. That's how compensation is determined. It's based on context. They have a similar role. You don't need to know them, although if you can get an introduction from a person in your network who's well networked, like an organizer of a group like this, and you say, I'm concerned about pay equity. I'm concerned that if we don't talk about money and we don't ask each other our salaries, we might be underpricing ourselves, particularly as freelancers. And then it becomes a race to the bottom. And guess who has the power? When we don't ask each other our salaries, the employer has the power. Then you say, here's some research I did. Am I off base? Or what's the ballpark you make? So here's what I'm doing. I'm giving, I'm setting up the conversation, giving them kind of this higher purpose to want to share with you. You're also presenting them with research and allowing them to not have to tell you exactly how much they make. And then always, offer support, offer to share with them how much you make and ask them how they negotiated. And by the way, white men is who you need to be asking. I have to say this all the time in the Ladies Get Paid Slack group. We, of course, can start with each other, and that's great. But if we're being underpaid, then, we should talk to the people who get paid the most. Don't be afraid to do this, guys. This could be the difference between $10,000, $20,000. I've heard it time and time again from women in my network where they realized that they needed to be charging more simply because they talked to somebody else. And by the way, it is a ballpark. Companies determine pay based on what's called a pay band. So it is a range. You do have to pick numbers within that range, right? That will essentially be the framework. Remember, I mentioned at the beginning, this isn't about, here's what I want, no, okay. It's about having a few other numbers so that if the negotiation doesn't get you with what you want at the top, okay, we've got some other things to talk about here. So of course, rockstar money, that's the top of the pay band. If it's not making you at least a little bit uncomfortable, it's probably not high enough. No, these numbers, it is not based on what you currently make. It's not based on what you used to make. You might have been underpaid. Your job really may have changed. So we got to focus this on the research. You pick the top number. Now we're going to pick the middle number of the range, or a number that you'd feel really good about getting. And then you have, I respect myself too much. This is the lowest you'll go. Anything less, you're walking, right? This is your bottom line. When you go into negotiate, forget the bottom line. We're not there. I don't want you to orient yourself towards it in any way. You start with the rockstar money. And yes, you're going to be the first one to say what you want. I'm going to talk about that at the end. I know it's controversial, but stick with me. I'm going to start with the rockstar money. If they say we can't do that, okay, feeling good. I'll have scripts at the end. Point being, you should really be negotiating between the rockstar money and the feeling good money. You should be confident because you did your research. I challenge you to find at least 6 sources. 6 sources. I think we get nervous when we're not sure if we're asking for the right amount. You're going to be extremely confident. And when you talk about what you want, you're going to tie it to the market research. Not emotional. By the way, bottom line, way easier said than done. I don't think we dig in enough to how do you actually calculate the bottom line, which is a concern because if you really want or need the job, you may find yourself really sliding below what you can even take. I actually do want to mention negotiating your salary is a luxury, okay? This is a privileged thing to do because the strongest negotiators ultimately are the people who are able and willing to walk away. So you always want to see, can I have another offer, side hustle going on? Can I monetize that? Savings, right? It's going to make you stronger. Ultimately, though, is this opportunity worth the financial sacrifice you might have to make based on your bottom line? And there's lots of other things that the company, money isn't everything, which as ladies get paid, I should never say that, but it's true. It's true, right? What are all the reasons that you would take a job? When it's time to go commute again, for those of us in California, LA, you don't want to drive very far, especially not now. My commute is into that other room. Okay, that's a perk. How about that this is a company whose name is going to look quite fancy on my resume? I'm going to be pivoting, right? So maybe I have to take a little bit less money because I'm now going to be going into a new industry. This is a personal conversation for you. This is also why I love talking about money and I love salary negotiation because this is so much more than your paycheck. This is about the life that you want to live, the life you want to live today and the future. Money is part of it. It is not everything. It's about your values. And as with everything in life, it's a cost benefit analysis. If I take this job and I have to give up X number of dollars, is the opportunity worth it? Only you will know. Now, you can get more than money, right? Going off of the point of like, it's not just about the money. It's definitely not just about the money. This is called a full compensation, full comp. And by the way, if anybody has been able to get full comp and I didn't include what you've gotten here, please jump into the chat. Please share what you've done. I'm talking about higher commission, right? These are things that bring you value that maybe don't cost the company much money or any money. Higher commission, a signing bonus, if you can push back the start date, if you can have them reimburse you for moving costs, stock options, commuting costs, right? Gas money, Metro card, flexibility, more vacation days, timetable for review, right? Career development. I love career development because that's going to position you for your next job. You can leverage what you've learned in career development for the next job. Now, you are probably thinking, but Claire, if they can't give me the salary that I want, then how will they be able to afford a signing bonus or paying for me to go to a conference, right? Different budgets, different budgets. Ooh, I see Julie Alma Taveras. This is great. I'm seeing people I know. I love this. The reason, so different budgets, hear me out for a second. Think about this past year, the travel budgets that every single company always has, right? Every company sends people around the country, around the world. They didn't use their travel budgets this year. That means they have a pot of money that they can pull from. I know this from a couple of women who were not able to raise their base, but did get signing bonuses. It's also, by the way, in the company's best interest to keep you working there, to get you to say yes to the things that they want. And that means sometimes they have to be creative about where they pull the money from. Don't rely on them to come up with this, though. Have in your mind some of these things that you want. Can't have all of them, so prioritize. I would say have the conversation about money first. Okay, great. We've decided on my base. Now I would like to discuss full compensation. Other coaches are going to tell you differently. They're going to say, I think you should discuss full comp and your base salary all at the same time. I'm not against that. This is just one person over here. Okay. So get second opinions. The reason though, that I'm saying maybe let's separate the conversations is if you say that you want career development, could they use that as leverage to get your salary down, right? Like you've kind of just shown all of your cards. I'm not talking about things that are deal breakers though, guys, right? Like if you need flexibility, right, you have to bring that up. You have to bring that up really soon because otherwise you're wasting your own time. Now we got to really make that case. So I would say if there's anything that you take from today, this is probably the best thing because it will help you when you are interviewing for a job, when you are making the case for a promotion, right? This is you being a top performer. Something I would love for you to do is go find the original job description of your last job or your current job, and then write up a new job description based on what you actually did. I am sure there is big changes between the two. Your job probably completely morphed. You took on multiple people's roles. Maybe you're not even doing something, the things that you were asked to do. There is stuff there that's going to be really interesting for you to identify. Even your life experiences, the things that you've learned. Pick out one or two wins that you've had. They should be evidence for what you want to do moving forward. So don't talk about things you've done that went really well, but maybe you don't want to do them again. Come with ideas for the future, by the way. Come with ideas for the future because only you have those ideas. It's the past evidence that supports that you have the potential to maybe accomplish those ideas. Obstacles. Anytime that something was hard, a challenge that was thrown your way, you were given no budget, no time to get something done, and you did it. Something that was at stake, right? These are great opportunities to find ways to talk about your wins. If you're having a hard time, I want you to think about who you can talk to. And maybe we need to work on some perfectionism a little bit because that's oftentimes when we think, I don't have any wins. Or also you say to me, I've heard this from many women, but Claire, this was part of my job. Just doing my job. I'm going to say back to you, would a mediocre white man ever say that? He would say no. He would say, I can definitely talk about my wins. So go check yourself. Anytime that you have any kind of negative self-talk, wondering if that's the way that we are socialized. We have to tell our story though. So it's not enough to just point to this thing that we did. I want you to imagine that you are a main character in a movie. It gives you a little bit of distance because sometimes we feel it's a bit awkward to talk about myself. Write all this down. This is the framework to tell a really compelling story. It's called the STAR method, STAR. And like I said, you want to write it down. Don't just come prepared in your mind. Give us context. Okay. So think of the win that you want, right? That how the job changed and you did something great. Who was there? What, when, why? What was at stake? There is always something at stake. This is going to make us really compelled by your story. All right, task, what were you asked to do or what did you take on? Action, okay, what did you do? Here's the part that many of us forget. How did you do it? Because if I told you that I got 500 people to come to an event, you would say, wow, that's impressive. But what happens if I told you that I was given no budget, 1 week turnaround time, we had no presence in Portland, Oregon, where we're going to be producing this? How did I do it? I got 10 other women's groups. I'm making this part up. 10 other women's groups to partner with me. Here's the whole program that we did. Point being is now I'm able to really demonstrate to you my ability to be creative and resourceful, X, Y, and Z things, right? Like you see that there's a lot more interesting stuff that I can talk about when I talk about my process. They can also kind of visualize you as a leader. What happened? Most important thing. What was your impact? Remember, I talked about got to know how you contributed to the bottom line, and that's not always easy for everybody, depending on your role. First of all, if you receive a paycheck from a company, you make them money. Otherwise, that is charity, which we've determined that that's not. Okay. You want to go to somebody that you work with and say, I want to think like an entrepreneur here. I want to really understand how this company makes money, all the different ways it makes money, and my place in it, how I contribute to the bottom line. Because you may be doing it indirectly, right? You may be saving them time, saving them resources, right? Contributing to the company culture. So many of us do this, right? Where we, out of the goodness of our heart, we volunteer for employee resource groups. Maybe we're mentors for other people. You know what that's doing? That's improving the company culture, which gets people to want to stay at the company. That's something that the company can advertise to attract great candidates to join. As somebody who worked in the recruitment space before, trust me when I tell you that it is very expensive for companies to lose talent who currently work there. It's also expensive for them to lose candidates who are in the interview pipeline. If you were to say, I'm walking away, they have to start over, right? So keep that in mind. They want to make it work. You are impacting. You do need to quantify it as best as you can. And also, what did you learn? Because again, that's going to show a little bit more about who you are, right? And if you were able to learn quickly, especially if you're new, especially if you're even just making the case, you came out of college, you don't have a lot of experience, then you really want to dig into real examples of how you learned, okay? But it's not just about what you do, right? I mentioned it's also about who you are because we experience you as an entire person and you're hired to be part of an entire team and a team dynamic. So what do you contribute to the team dynamic? So here's a couple of things. Are you enthusiastic, positive? If you're detail-oriented, you're a leader, team builder, large network, patient, you have institutional knowledge, which means you've worked there for a while. I'm probably missing a bunch of others, so put it in the chat. There's two reasons it's really important to know this stuff. Number one, you should go more in the direction of your strengths, okay? So knowing something I didn't include on here, which is my superpower that I've only fully realized recently. My superpower is a communicator. I only just articulated that. If I really articulated that earlier, not that it would have changed any of the jobs that I took or any of the roles that I had, but I think I would be looking more specifically and strategically about how do I capitalize, what is communication? How does that get manifested in my role and in my career? And how do I make sure that I'm taking on roles where I do that as part of my, that is the main function of my role. So knowing this about yourself is really important for you. It's also something you're going to articulate. Now, you're saying to me, Claire, do I just go to my boss or my interviewer and I say, I'm an enthusiastic person? Because that's weird. No, you can, but this is what I would do. I know that one of my unique strengths is the fact that I'm really upbeat. I'm a really positive person. Here is how I've seen it impact the team. I've seen that morale has gone up. They've become more productive. Being more productive saves time, and time is money. I'm putting words in your mouth, but you're going to need to tell a little bit of a story. No, it's not lying, but do you need to have written testimonials from the team? No, but hopefully this is getting you thinking beyond just the work that you did. It's the big day. It's the day you've all been waiting for. Oh, I realized I was going to stop along the way and answer questions. Clearly, that didn't happen. So I'm going to take some questions at the end. And I know I can go over a few minutes because I gave y'all like about 7 minutes to join. So no rush, but keep putting in those questions. I will get to it. Let's talk about negotiating for a new job. Accept your fear. Let me tell you about this. When you practice, which you must practice, and by the way, practice does not make perfect. Get rid of that. If that's something you tell yourself, you know why? Practice makes perfect, makes too much pressure, way too much pressure. No, this is about what you learn, you doing your best. Okay. When you practice, though, really pay attention to your body. Like, don't even try to memorize what you're going to say, by the way. Body. When do you start to feel really nervous, heart pounding, the petty palms, no, sweaty palms? It's been a day. When that happens, accept it. Claire, this may happen. I trust yourself. Trust yourself. What may end up happening is, yes, you might start to get the heart palpitations, but because you're aware that this may happen and because you've accepted it, you're not going to be surprised. You're not going to fight it. You're going to release it. I've seen this before. Also, by the way, we don't do things that we don't think are helping us. That's just innate to our own like survival as human beings. So just realize, you know what? Why is being really nervous helping me? Two things. One, it might be trying to protect you from being rejected. And, it's saying to yourself, don't do this because I don't want you to get hurt. Also, this is the best one because I learned this from somebody else. It might just be excitement. It's adrenaline, right? Fear is energy. Fear is energy, but so is excitement and enthusiasm. So what you're really trying to do is just like honor the fear and then hopefully like shifting that, turning the energy into excitement as best as you can. They ask you what you currently make. By the way, depending on where you live, some states outlaw this. It's called the salary history ban. They outlaw this. And you know why? Because the thinking is if marginalized groups right at the beginning of their career make less money and every next salary is based on that original salary, the gap is going to compound over time. This is why I don't want you coming up with a salary based on what you used to make. Exactly for that reason. But if they do ask you, okay, how much do you make? You can absolutely tell them the truth, but pivot to what you actually want to make and why. Because again, remember that original job description. What you were offered then was based on who you were then and what that job was listed as. Again, you may have grown massively. You can also say, I'm making the low 5 figures. My boss prefers I keep the number confidential. So that's whatever you feel most comfortable with. They ask what you want to make. Who goes first? Who goes first? I think you should go first. A lot of people tell you not to be. Here's why I think you should go first. You're very confident in the market research you've done. You didn't pick a random number. You're going to tell them the market research that you did. When you go first, you anchor high. You have the power in the conversation. My concern is if they go first and they tell you the number and you don't like the number, it's lowballing you. You might get demoralized, might kind of knock you off. You might feel like it's a little bit harder to get them to go up. Okay, so start with what you want. You can contextualize it. So it's not, I want this number. It's, according to my research, a typical rate for a person with my experience makes between X and Y. Because I'm a top performer, I'd be looking for the higher end. And you make your case. You can also call out kind of the elephant in the room, right? I'm really afraid that I'm going to go too high, to be honest. So I would love for you to go first. Then you have to be quiet. You have to be quiet. The ball is now in their court, which is scary, but you're going to seem like you're not confident in what you've presented if you keep talking. By the way, you can also say something like, and I actually may get to it in just a minute, but I'm going to say it now. You can also start by saying, I know that you're a company that pays fairly. I know that you're a company that values gender pay equity. Even if you don't know that, you're going to say it anyway, because that's holding them to that standard. Here's the number I would like to make. It's what I found in the market. It's what I believe makes sense for me. That being said, this is a conversation. What are your thoughts? So again, you are demonstrating that you know your value. And by the way, if you go too low, that's going to make, I've always wondered this. When somebody quotes me too low, I think, well, what's wrong with them? Okay. So there's like a danger in going too low. You've been assertive. You've held them to a standard. You've mentioned that there was market research that you did and you opened it up, that this isn't you versus them, right? Let's have a conversation. All right, negotiating at a current job. You don't know when you're going to ask. By the way, never wait until your performance review to be talking about the work that you're doing and the money you're going to get. You know why? Budgets are decided by the time that you have that big conversation. And also they need to be aware of your great work all throughout the year. They just do. So find out when the budgets are decided. Usually it's like 3 months, in my experience, 3 months before the annual review. Have an explicit conversation with your manager about your desire to grow. Come with ideas, career development, next role you want. Welcome into the conversation so they don't feel blindsided, right? Love to learn about your career. What would you do if you're in my shoes? I want to think like an entrepreneur. All this stuff that is not just about the money. Money is a piece of a more holistic vision of what you look like as somebody who has upward momentum. Seek their counsel. When you've had a win, go forward an email. Love to talk to you. Want to make sure I'm doing a great job. But they say we can't do it. They won't budge. Then you say, is there a year-end bonus that comes out of a different pot of money or equity? Or can we get creative to getting us close to this number? Creative is good. To me, a no is a not yet. No is a not yet. So if you really can't get what you want, I want to know, when is the next time you can discuss this? And if it's in 6 months, you send them a calendar invite. You also make sure you've got a meeting on the books for 3 months. You check in. I'm like wagging my finger at you all. You check in. Are we still on the same page? Do I fully understand how you define and measure success? Am I exceeding that? You can also bring up full compensation. This is the time. If it's just no, it's great. Let's talk about full comp. You need to get something. If they're unwilling to provide you with any support, this is not a company where you can thrive. This is why I said it's a luxury to negotiate. So we should always be networking, which you all know because you're here. Find people to practice with. If you don't know somebody in your life where you can do this, find somebody here in the chat. It's really straightforward. People are scared of negotiating because there's a lot of emotions, because we tend to see our money, sort of our net worth, as our self-worth. Or we see, this person's opinion of us now becomes an indictment on who we are and all. It's actually really straightforward, and it's a lot simpler than you think. Negotiations are probably only going to go so many ways. What's your current salary? They may ask. What are you looking for? We can't afford that. There's no room in the budget. What are you going to say to each of those? And do remember the greater picture. Remember that wage gap and all these overwhelming, depressing statistics and the pandemic. I know it's cliche, but a rising tide does lift all boats. So please, everybody, commit to me today. Do not underprice yourself. Talk about money with your friends. Do it on behalf of others. And then join our community. By the way, ladiesgetpaid.com. We'll add you to our Slack group. My book. I got a big chapter in here in negotiating. ladiesgetpaid.com/book. Please keep me posted, everybody. My email, I didn't put it on here because my inbox is really scary and giving me hives as I think about it. But if you are on Instagram, follow me, DM me, really rooting for you. And now go get paid. Let me take some questions, if that's all right, with my cultivate friends behind the scenes. Just cut me off when we're done. Maybe we just, we go for 3 more minutes, 2 more minutes. Okay. How do you go about using an outside job offer to get your current company to counter offer? I have heard this work well. I have also heard it backfire. I think women there's a double standard, as we all know. And when we act assertive, we can be looked at as aggressive. When we go and find counter offers, we can be looked at as disloyal. I have found when I've worked for men that they take things extremely personally and they are so emotional. So just know that if you come with another offer, they might say, you know what? Clearly you want to work somewhere else. Here's what I would do though. I would say, I really want to stay here, but this is the offer I got. Can you at least match it? And say, if you were in my position, what would you do? I admire your career. Even if you don't, just say it anyway. Admire your career. What would you do if you were in my position? Let me see. I want to just answer a question that's pretty universal. I was with a company for 2 years. And definitely going above and beyond, doing 4 different jobs, but only getting paid for one, never being given enough time to get projects done, but always making it happen and working overtime. I was due for a raise, but had never worked for a corporate company before, so didn't realize I needed to ask for it. Isn't that terrible? I ended up getting so frustrated and decided it was a toxic work environment, so I left the company instead. This is why women often churn out of the workforce. It's because they're environments that basically are inhospitable for their growth. I guess this isn't really a question, but you always have to ask for a raise. We didn't have 6-month reviews unless you requested it. By the way, companies we work for, it's a relationship like any other. It has to work for you too. So I wish, depends on the company. Some companies, lots of, reviews, the facilitated communication with managers, et cetera, et cetera. Some companies clearly are not. If you are finding that they're really hesitant to do stuff, or it's very secretive and feels wrong, like listen to your instinct, this is probably not a company you want to work at. Though you have to find an ally, somebody there who can say, here's how I've navigated it, or I've worked with your manager before, here's some recommendations of how to do this. We got to start sharing that stuff with us. Otherwise, we're making up what we think we should do, and that's not always the best. My second question is, how do you tell bosses that a male counterpart is making twice as much as you for doing less work and got a raise after only 4 projects? True story. This is by the same person who, again, clearly needed to not work at that company anymore, though I have gotten this question before. I would say it has come to my attention that some people are making more money than me. So I wouldn't say the person's name. I would then, instead of calling them out and saying, well, what are you going to do about it? I just want to understand why. Because again, rates are determined on a pay band. That means that there could be 2 people on the same team who get paid differently. Now, should it be egregiously differently? Definitely not. But you get paid differently based on what you bring to the table. You could bring clients, you could have a master's degree, things like that. So I would like to know, how is compensation determined here? And why am I paid what I am? And how do I make sure that I'm, exceeding and moving up? Then you can determine if this is a place that you want to stay. Okay. I think I'm almost done. If you're a top performer in your role, but the company says they can't pay you the amount you asked for because you don't, quote, have enough experience, how do you go about that? Especially when you're doing better work than a male counterpart with more experience in the same role. Can you ask, I love the word why, and doing it in a way like, I want to make sure like I am getting the experience. How do you do when you say not enough experience? Like, can we be more specific about what you mean? Like, it's, is it specific kind of experience? How do I prove that? And take the information they give you, and then you come back with the case. So by the way, never feel like one conversation of negotiation is the end. You don't have to say yes to anything in the moment. So you can download that information. Okay, I hear you. Thank you so much. I'd love to schedule another meeting with you once I've got a chance to process it. And then you can go back. Hopefully that was helpful. I know this was a little bit surface because we only had 30 minutes, although now we've done approximately 40. So hopefully this was helpful again. And we're going to be sending you your slides, my slides, it looks like, and they can download your slides from the site. Look at that. Also, this is being recorded, but join Ladies Get Paid. Follow me on Instagram, obviously the book, and I appreciate you all so much for being here and for believing in yourself and your career. And no doubt you're going to make more money. It's a learning experience. Okay. So you're going to do better. You're going to learn, and then you're going to find a next role in a next company where it's not going to be so hard to fight for it. Good to see you all. Good to see some of my friends who joined from before, and happy, not Friday, but after today, it's closer to Friday. So there you go. Thank you all so much. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and hand it over to the wonderful Create, Cultivate producers. And I'll see you all on Instagram.